Learning objectives. At the end of this topic, you will be able to understand how to collect data, organize data, and interpret data. Construct a histogram from the given set of data. Introduction. Data is a collection of information such as marks scored by the students in math unit test, points scored by a tennis player in last 5 matches, number of magazines read by each of your neighbors, number of cars sold in the year 2010, etc. The information collected in all such cases is referred to as data. Data is initially collected from a given source. Representation of data by graphical method is very easy to understand what it represents. Do you remember the different types of graphs which we have learned in the earlier classes? Yes, it is pictograph. Let's see an example for a pictograph. A fruit seller sold the following number of different fruits as given below. Form a pictograph with the help of the given data. Bar graph. Now, we will look at examples for bar graph. 1. How many students like hip-hop? 2. How many students like classical? 3. How many students like rock? 4. How many students like jazz? Finally, double bar graph. 1. Which food was selected as the second choice by the girls? 2. How many students want pizza? 3. How many girls are present in the class? Organizing data. The data available in unorganized form is called raw data. Raw data is a term for data collected from a source. It's also known as the primary data. The information displayed here has been collected but not formatted or analyzed. Raw data often is collected in a database where it can be organized systematically. For example, group of students like the colors. The results were as given below. It is not easy to answer the question looking at the choices written haphazardly. We arrange the data in table using tally marks. In your lower class, you have already studied how to mark tally marks. Now let us do this example. It is easy to do a tally. Just put marks in a table. Before marking tally marks, count how many of them are red in color. There are 7 red colors. Now mark 7 tally marks and write the number of students like red color is 7. Next, count how many of them are blue in color. 5 of them are blue in color. Now mark 5 tally marks. So the total number of students in blue is 5. In the same way, mark the tally marks for green color. Mark 6 tally marks and write the number of students as green color is 6. The last one is yellow. The number of students in yellow color is 4. Mark 4 tally marks. Write the number of students in yellow color is 4. This is known as the frequency of that color. Frequency gives the number of times that a particular entry occurs. Frequency of students who are red is 7. Frequency of students who are in blue is 5. Frequency of students who are in green is 6. And frequency of students who are in yellow is 4. The table made is known as frequency distribution table as it gives the number of times an entry occurs. Grouping data. Grouped data is a data that has been organized into groups known as classes. For example, consider the following marks out of 50 obtained in mathematics by 40 students of class 8. If we have too large a data, we apply the following method. If we make a frequency distribution table for each observation, then the table would be too long. So for convenience, we make groups of observations, say 0 to 10, 10 to 20, and so on, and obtain a frequency distribution of the number of observations falling in each group. Thus, the frequency distribution table for the above data can be 2 of them scored marks between 0 and 10. 7 of them scored marks between 10 and 20. 14 of them scored marks between 20 and 30. 12 of them scored marks between 30 and 40. 4 of them scored marks between 40 and 50. One of them scored marks between 50 and 60. It is important to note down that 10 occurs in both the class interval, that is 0 to 10 as well as 10 to 20. 10 belongs to the class interval 10 to 20 and not 0 to 10. Similarly, 20 occurs in both the classes 10 to 20 and 20 to 30. In the same way, 20 is not possible to occur in 10 to 20. The common observation will always belong to the higher class, that is, 20 occurs between 20 and 30. In the class interval 10 to 20, 10 is called the lower class limit and 20 is called the upper class limit. Similarly, in the class interval 20 to 30, 20 is the lower class limit and 30 is the upper class limit. Now observe that the difference between the upper class limit and lower class limit for each of the class intervals 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, etc. is equal 10 in this case. This difference between the upper class limit and lower class limit is called the width or the size of the class interval. Bars with difference. In your previous class, you have learned bar graph and double bar graph. Here let us discuss about histograms. In bar graph and double bar graph, there is a gap between two successive bars. But in histogram, there is no gap between the two successive bars. Now let us learn how to construct a histogram. Consider the same example as we have done in grouping data. The grouped frequency distribution of the marks obtained by 40 students in mathematics unit test. Now let us learn how to construct a histogram. First draw x-axis and y-axis. Mark class intervals on x-axis and frequencies on y-axis. Draw rectangles with class intervals as bases and the corresponding frequencies as heights. Here the frequency is 2 for the class interval 0 to 10. The bar grows up to 2. The next frequency is 7 for the class interval 10 to 20. So the bar grows up to 7. For the class interval 20 to 30, the frequency is 14. The bar grows up to 14. For the class interval 30 to 40, the frequency is 12. The bar grows up to 12. For the class interval 40 to 50, the frequency is 4. The bar grows up to 4. The last class interval is 50 to 60. The frequency is 1. The bar grows up to 1. The class limits are marked on the horizontal axis and the frequency is marked on the vertical axis. Also, there is no gap between the class intervals. Thus, a rectangle is constructed on each class interval. This type of graphical representation of data is called histogram. Summary. Let's summarize the topic. The data available in an unorganized form is called a raw data. It's also known as primary data. Organizing data systematically will help you to draw meaningful inferences from any given data. The number of times that a particular entry occurs is called frequency. A data classified into groups is called grouped data, and it is presented systematically through grouped frequency distribution. Histogram can be represented by grouped data. The class limits are marked on the horizontal axis, and the frequency is marked on the vertical axis. Also, the histogram does not have any gaps between two successive bars.